Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you enjoy. And this afternoon, we're going to discuss our first set of final coaching. So allow me to share my presentation. So this is very important to know some of the things that we need to learn in professional education course. So this is Helen Boholano, your coach, mentor. So I would like to thank Gen Ed Consultancy Training and Review Center for the invite. They offer a licensure examination for teachers, intensive review, criminology intensive review, architecture review, agriculture intensive review, civil service intensive review for both professional and sub-professional level. They also have consultants in research and statistics, and they are the first CPD provider in Region 8. So number one question in the professional education course. Now teachers and those who are soon to become teachers will be taking the licensure exam by March 2021. This is very useful for you, which is in accordance with the witness principle of classroom management of CONIN. Is it A, students agree or disagree in class discussions? Teachers is fully aware of what is happening in his classroom. Students is with his teacher and everything he teaches. Both parents and teachers are involved in education of children. The right answer is letter B, why? Jacob Conan identified a cluster of proactive teacher behavior that distinguished effective classroom management from ineffective one. Conan also had an idea that includes the ripple effect, worthiness. So in the previous example, it's more on worthiness, overlapping, effective transitions, momentum, smoothness, and class management. So when we speak of worthiness, it is the capacity to perceive the needs of our students with accuracy and care. So sometimes the students are very noisy or very chaotic, but as a teacher should know what's going on inside the classroom. It seems to be that you should have an eyes at your back. Teacher use worthiness notice the behavior of all students and respond quickly to unexpected events. They pay close attention to students' nonverbal and verbal responses. In addition, the teacher is responsible for inhibiting poor behavior. The teacher can maintain this strategy by making eye-to-eye contact to all students at all times. So the teacher also is very important in this implementation of overlapping, though this is not part of the previous question. The teacher can have procedures that will allow the teacher to be effective when two situations occur at the same time. For example, if a student is done with assessment or assignment, early have something for them to do, such as moving on another assignment, reading a book, or quiet enrichment exercise. This is important because there are some students who are fast learner and who can finish the activity in a very short period of time. What is momentum? So the teacher should make lecture short to allow students to group together and move around and gain more knowledge of the content. The teacher should make sure that these exercises remain very short so students do not get bored. Alam natin ngayon, ating mga estudyante madaling ma-board, especially during this online modular learning. So there are online and there are also modular. That's why online or modular learning. A teacher can keep a timer or assign rows of students to keep the student moving on a time deadline. Smoothness, this is equally important because the teacher can have students to make hand gestures, like a gesture, that will tell the teacher whether the student has a comment or question concerning a lesson. So how will the teacher do this during this online learning? So of course, in Zoom or in any application, there is you can still raise your hand, or you can raise your hand like this if you have some concern regarding the lesson. This technique allows a teacher to have an idea about those students who may cause an unwanted tangent and those who may have a good question pertaining to utilize the time effectively. When placing student in group work, the teacher can walk around facilitating and listening to discussions of other students. Take note, in the 21st century, teachers are facilitators of learning. In group focus, there is a need to remember the following. You need to encourage accountability. Make students aware that they will be graded of their participation and contributions in the group. Though sometimes it's not good to always inform the student that assessment, that tests are recorded, that activities are always recorded, but sometimes there's a need to stress on this matter so that student will work, especially in group activity. Which is proactive management practice? Is it A, tell them that you enforce the rules on everyone, no exception? B, set and clarify your rules and expectations on day one? C, punish the misbehaving pupils in the presence of their classmates? Or D, stress on penalty for every violation? The right answer is letter B, I'm sorry. This is very important to set and clarify your rules at the beginning of classes. Now take note, even if you have some problems, say for example, especially mga dalaga nating guro na siguro nag-aaway-away kayo ng boyfriend nyo, you have to see to it that you're not going to bring your problems. Mahirap na pag mapiktuhan ng ating mga estudyante. So proactive management is the approach to management where the leader runs the school proactively. In this case, this is the teacher. Meaning, rather than they active in terms of seeking out new opportunities for the school and dealing with the threats of problems before they even emerge. According to Conan, proactive is very important, not reactive. Teachers need to be organized, to have an organized lessons and clear expectations. Number 3, what does the principle of individual difference require teachers to do? A, give less attention to gifted learners. B, treat all learners alike while teaching. C, provide for a variety of learning activities. D, prepare modules for slow learners in class. So the right answer is letter C. So the principle of individual difference is a principle that states that because everyone is unique, each person experiences a different response to an exercise program. So iba-iba yung estudyante natin. They are unique in terms of learning. They're unique in terms of their specialization and expertise, and even the learning styles. So every teacher should try to have a desired knowledge of the abilities, capacities, capabilities, interests, attributes, aptitudes, and other personality traits of his students, and in the light of this knowledge should render individual guidance for children for the maximum utilization of their potentialities. Number 4, who asserted that children must be given the opportunity to explore and work on different materials so that they will develop the sense of initiative instead of guilt? Is it A, Colbert, B, Erikson, C, Maslow, or D, Garner? If you remember, there are like Colbert moral development theory, Gardner multiple intelligences, Maslow hierarchy of needs. So the answer is Erikson. Erikson was an ego psychologist who developed one of the most popular influential theories of development. While his theory was impacted by psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud's work, Erikson's theory centered on psychosocial development rather than psychosexual development. So ito po yung cycle from 0 to 2 years old, trust versus mistrust, up to late adulthood. Number 5, for mastery learning in line with the outcomes-based evaluation model, which elements should be present? A, inclusion of non-performance objectives. B, construction of norm reference test. C, construction of criterion reference test. Or D, non-provision of independent learning. The right answer is letter C. OBE links classroom exercises to the real world by sourcing learners' realities as context of learning and teaching, and by making learning a productive learner experience. Classroom management, classroom activities are thus relevant to a subjective rather than to an externally perceived objective real world. So lahat ng ating ibigay ng mga halimbawa must be real life, real world context. That's why we need also to localize and contextualize all this. Number 6, which statement about standard deviation is correct? So can you remember what course is this, or subject? Because we're used to use the word subject in when we were in college. So this is more on assessment of student learning. In the new curriculum, this is already assessment in learning. The lower the standard deviation, the more spread the scores are. B, the higher the standard deviation, the more spread the scores are. C, the higher the standard deviation, the less spread the scores are. Or D, it is a measure of central tendency. Take note, measures of central tendency includes only mean, mode, and median. Thus, D is eliminated. The right answer is letter B. So, standard deviation is a measure of dispersion of a set of data from its mean. It measures the absolute variability of a distribution. Remember, the higher the dispersion or the variability, the greater the standard deviation. And the greater will be the magnitude of the standard deviation, the value from the mean. Number 7, to encourage introspection, which teaching method is most appropriate? A, cognitive, B, reflective, C, process, or D, cooperative learning. The right answer is reflective. Introspection is more reflection. Introspection is a deeper and more personal form of reflection. The term reflection denotes the act or state of being reflected, while introspection has to do with the observation of examination of one's own mental and emotional state of mind. Number 8, which terms refer to a teacher helping a colleague grow professionally? A, technology transfer, B, peer mentoring, C, facilitating, or D, independent study. The right answer is peer mentoring. Now, peer mentoring is very essential, especially to those who are newly hired teachers, that you will need to be mentored by senior faculty. Cross-age mentoring programs can involve a tutoring or teaching component to facilitate with academic success. The mentees benefit from increased personalized attention as in one-on-one setting and can work at their own pace. Peer mentoring is a relationship between people who have the same career stage or age, in which one person is more experienced. So pwedeng pareho nila sila ng age, pwede namang older yung isa, younger yung isa, or vice versa. That this one person has more experience than the other. Peer mentoring may be one-on-one relationship of experience in a group. Number 9, to provide individual differences, how is curriculum designed? A, minimum learning competencies are included. B, realistic and meaningful experience are provided. C, some degree of flexibility are provided. Or D, social skills are emphasized. The right answer is letter C. This is very true during this pandemic, that we have some degree of flexibility. The mode of delivery is flexible learning delivery. Even the mode of assessment is flexible. So this is curriculum development. It has subject matter experts, curriculum specialists, educational technologists, and educational psychologists to determine this, if this is really appropriate to age of the learners. Yeah. An act known as Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994 to strengthen the regulation and supervision of the practice of teaching provided in what Republic Act? Is it A, 8736, B, 8980, C, 7836, or D, 9880? The right answer is letter C, Republic Act 7836. This is more on regulation and supervision of the practice of teaching in the Philippines and prescribing the licensure examination for teachers and for other purposes. It was also included in Republic Act 7836 that teachers should take the licensure exam and take enough, for those who are non-education graduate, they have to take 18 units as of the moment in order to qualify the licensure examination for teachers. 11. Watson applied classical conditioning in his experiments, and the results showed that behavior is learned through stimulus-response associations, specifically the development of emotional responses to certain stimuli. This helps us in A, understanding fears, phobias, and love, B, connecting observable behaviors to stimulus, C, interpreting reflexes as emotions, or D, understanding the role of overt behavior. The right answer is letter A. Watson proposed that the process of classical conditioning based on Pavlov observations was able to explain all aspects of human psychology. Everything from speech to emotional responses was simply patterns of stimulus and response, SR. No? Watson's denied completely the existence of the mind or consciousness. So this is the comparison between classical and operant conditioning. From response, acquisition, extinction, cognitive processes up to biological predispositions. 12. Skinner is known for his theory based upon the notion that learning is a result of change in overt behavior, meaning an individual response to events that occur in the environment. This theory came to be known as A, operant conditioning, B, classical conditioning, C, stimulus-response associations, or D, connectionism. The right answer is operant conditioning. So Skinner's operant conditioning chamber, also called as Skinner's box, was designed to teach rats how to push a lever. This behavior is not natural to rats, so operant conditioning with positive and negative reinforcement were performed in order to teach the behavior. Take note of the positive and negative reinforcement. 13. The teacher aims to develop critical and creative thinking among her students. She should try using A, declarative statements, B, divergent questions, C, convergent questions, or D, expository. Now, the right answer is B, divergent. So in developing critical and creative skills, it is very important to note that they usually hypothesize, experiment, and attempt to feed their curious while playing, especially if you deal with children. The significant adults surrounding these young learners must be able to identify the quest for information. So this is the difference between divergent and convergent thinking. So if you need HATS questions are divergent. Lower order thinking skills questions are convergent. 14. Instructional objectives in the affective domain includes receiving, responding, valuing, and the highest is blank. Take note, sino ba yung proponent ng affective domain? It's no other than Krathwohl. So, is it A, acceptance or preference? B, consequence or feelings of satisfaction? C, selective attention or willingness to receive conceptualization? D, conceptualization of value system. The right answer is letter D. The highest is internalizing values. Value system is being internalized and controls behavior. So, pinakababa yung receiving, followed by responding, valuing, organization, then internalizing values is the highest. 50. Teacher A observed that one of her students excels in activities requiring speed, strength, flexibility, balance, and hand-eye coordination. According to Howard Gardner, which natural intelligence can be identified? A, bodily kinesthetic, B, verbal logical, C, interpersonal, or D, verbal linguistic. The right answer is bodily kinesthetic. So it's very important to note that we should give the students some activities that are fitted on their kind of intelligence. So bodily kinesthetic intelligence, according to Garner, these are people with high bodily kinesthetic intelligence, have total body control, sense of timing, a clear sense of the goal of physical action, and ability to train responses to become reflexes. It is the ability to control one's body movements and to handle objects skillfully. 16. Children with sub-average intelligence and deficits in adaptive behavior experience difficulty in managing daily activities and in conducting themselves appropriately in social situations, are diagnosed to be suffering from a kind of disability called A, mental retardation, B, emotional disorder, C, attention deficit, or D, health impairment. The right answer is mental retardation. Mental retardation can be categorized into mild, moderate, severe, or profound. So this kind of behavior given is called mental retardation, but it is not said and described if what kind of mental retardation or what level. 17. It is an approach that makes students think about thinking. Students get conscious of their thought processes while they are engaged in their cognitive tasks. This is an example of an approach called blank. A, cognitive, B, constructive, C, metacognitive, or D, reflective or reflectivist. That's letter C. Thinking about thinking is metacognition. Metacognition is very important. This refers to the process used to plan, monitor, and assess one's understanding and performance. Metacognition includes critical awareness of one's thinking and learning, oneself as a thinker and a learner. So ito po yung metacognitive teaching framework. Now, if you look at it, it's very important to note that we need to think aloud. We need to redefine strategy use, let the strategy use gel, and a self-assess for goal setting. So we can have a cycle of this framework. 18. Also, Bell recommends the use of visual design to bridge the gap between what the learners already know and what they need to know. What is an example? A, pictures, B, concept maps, C, comparison patterns, or D, overviews. So ano po yung na-remember niyo when we speak of Osobel? You will recall that Osobel is a proponent for graphic organizers. So saan sa apat ang graphic organizers? It is comparison patterns, which is a Venn diagram. So David Paul Osobel was an American psychologist, and most significant contribution of Osobel to the field of educational psychology, cognitive science, and science education learning was on the development of advanced organizers. So, according to Osabel, the goal of learning the subject matter improvement of the presentation methods of teaching is very important. We need to remember how teachers can apply these ideas about the curriculum and learning when they present new material to students, and that is instruction. 19. It is the teaching approach that views learning as an active process that creates a meaningful connection between prior experience and the present learning activity, hence results is better understanding and meanings. This approach is known as A, inquiry, B, metacognitive, C, problem solving, or D, constructivism. The right answer is constructivism. Students construct knowledge based on prior knowledge. 20. A teacher had envisions developing proficiency among her teachers in employing effective and new teaching methodology. What is one way of achieving it? Is it A, attend annual conventions, B, improvise of instructional tools, C, conduct inter-school visit for exchanges of best practices and observing classes demonstrations, or undertake research based on their own specialization? The right answer is letter C. Now we need to know the different practices of different schools, so we'll be able also to adapt this, and so that we'll be able also, and this school also can share their best practices to other schools. Effective instructional practices are student-centered, keeping the student's strengths and preferences in mind, while at the same time advancing the student's engagement, knowledge, and understanding of the new content and even new pedagogy. Collaboration between lead practitioners and teacher is a powerful professional development activity that can help teachers improve their subject matter, think about strategies and different ways, and learn new ideas, and they will try it in her own or his own classroom. So there is a need for us to benchmark practices even not only in model schools in the Philippines, but also schools here and abroad.